What we're going to talk about today is AI prototyping for product managers. While prototyping is an important skill for everyone who is into tech, but for PMs especially, and that's why we will focus on that. We'll try and understand what are some of the nuances of prototyping, why it's required, and all of those things. But before that, a quick introduction. I am Malay. I work as the director of product at Vyapar. Before that, I was at a edtech company that got acquired by Byju's and then worked for them 2.5 years. And then for the last 7 years, I've been here working as a director of product. And I'm also the founder of Ayuda, which is a training platform or a training company for product managers where we help PMs or aspiring PMs later. But let's jump right into it. I know you've already been waiting and I don't want you to make further. What is AI prototyping? We'll just talk about the agenda first so that you understand what's in this session and how value packed it's going to be. So we'll first talk about, what is the requirement of this? How do you move from an idea to a plan to a prototype in minutes? We'll talk about the workflow that you must have where you need to use Lovable. We'll talk about builder.io. We'll talk about ChatGPT, of course. What should be your workflow? To make this very, very hands-on, I'm not going to give you a lot of theoretical gyan, to be honest. I'm going to do 2 live demos where I'm going to build 2 apps. I'm going to build 2 prototypes rather. One where I'm going to, build it right from the scratch and understand what's, like that from there. And the other is where we will take an existing product and try and add some features to it and so on and so forth. Then we will try and understand how you can link Figma or design files to a wireframe and do that. And then of course, we'll talk about, how you can kickstart your own work and, do a bit of Q&A on top of it. Right. Now let's get started. Now, the first thing to understand to set up some ground rules is why do you require prototyping and why do you require AI prototyping more than anything else, right? Now, the biggest thing around AI right now is there is a very strong need of demarcation for you to understand what AI can do and what AI cannot do, right? And that is why it's super important for you to understand what AI can do, right? And for a product manager, prototyping is one of the core skills that they need to communicate, that they need to convey their vision and build accordingly, right? So why is AI prototyping important? You of course learn faster because you show your interface, you show what you're thinking and you don't, just talk about it. Then the next thing is that you don't waste any development time. You don't go to code before actually iterating on top of your design. You have very rich user conversations because face it, if you were a user and I would go to you and say just, one or two things or tell you, hey, this is how it will look and this is why it will look and so on and so forth, you're going to be, turned off. You'll not maybe invest that much time into it, right? Whereas if you are, someone who is more, you've shown this very visually to the people, they're seeing it in front of them, they will of course engage much more, right? And also a lot of times we as product managers have to, work with assumptions. We have to work with the things that we already have, things that we already don't have, and so on and so forth. And all of this can become much, much more simpler because of AI prototyping. Now, one thing that you have to understand is as of now, right, as product managers, your job is not delivering a product with prototyping, right? Yes, AI is good enough to be able to build full-blown products, end-to-end products on their own, no doubt about it, right? It's ready to build production-grade products. But when it comes to prototyping, delivery is not what is expected out of you, right? What is expected out of you is a better conversation happening with your users, is a better conversation happening with your developers and your designers, right? So first things first, prototyping is not something which, you are expected to deliver production grade products from. You're expected to improve your conversations because of prototyping. Now, let's understand what is the landscape right now, right? Now, there are 4 kinds of prototyping or AI assisted prototyping that exist right now, right? The first is chat based, your chat GPT, Claude, all of these come into this picture where, you give some text and the output is also text, right? So this is going to help you showcase if you're just generating some text, some visuals, some presentations, some slides, this is going to help you. Web-based, Lovable, Bold, V0, Emergent, all of these. The most common, the sweet spot, because, it's not descriptive like GPT or Claude where you have to read a lot of things. And it's not so heavy on code, which is like Cursor, Windsurf, where it's like a development assistance where you have to understand code from this. And then Replit is a full stack thing which does end to end. Our focus as product managers today is going to be around this section, which is web-based, which is Lovable, Bold, V0, etc. So that is what we're going to focus on today. And we're going to essentially dive right in and understand how you can prototype a learning app, right? Before you even go and prototype, right? A mistake that a lot of people do is that, they have an idea and then just they go to Lovable and say that, hey, go ahead and build this for me. That's of course not the right thing to do. The first thing to do as a product manager, and that is still AI proof, right? There is no amount of AI that can actually change that at this point. The first thing that you have to do is first create a user flow in your mind, right? No AI can replace this. You cannot depend on AI to create this. Of course, if you ask a chat GPT, it will create this for you. But the first thing that I suggest in my workflow of prototyping is going to a tool like a Whimsical or a draw.io or any tool that allows you, or even like simple Google Slides or whatever, or just a pen and paper rather, any such tool where you create a flow like this, right? So now what are we going to do today? The first demo that we are going to do is we are going to create a learning app which takes some podcast. You as the owner of the app is able to enter transcripts of a podcast into that app, and then based on that you are going to be able to convert it into a place where the users see learning cards, they see assessments, and then they see analytics, right? Very simple. The first thing you do when you're thinking about a prototype is not go to a chat GPT or not go to a Claude, which most people are guilty of doing. The first thing you do is you create this flow, right? This is coming right from here. There is no AI involved yet. This is you thinking or you telling yourself, what do I want out of this, right? What do I want to do out of my prototype? And that's how you begin, right? So once again, the first thing is this. Now you can have different versions of it. What I've done here is I have picked like a flow where you log in to home, then you see a category of podcasts on your screen, then you see a list of latest podcasts for the category that you see, and then you see for each of them some learning cards, some assessments, some analytics, and then after you finish you end up with looking at a new podcast suggestion, right? Now once I have this flow in my mind, I will just open the next step of it, which is ChatGPT, right? Now here what I will do is I will just open this chat with it so that you understand. Now here what I have done is I've given the screenshot of my learning flow. So I've given GPT a screenshot of exactly what I want. And then what I have done is I am giving it a prompt. I'm telling it that, hey, I'm creating an app on Lovable, and I'm describing the entire thing, right? So I'm describing the fact that the first thing would be learning cards, the podcasts, and all of this. And also I'm describing the fact that right now there are two versions of it, right? So there is an admin link where you can feed a new podcast and the transcript. And then there is going to be the app, which is going to be for the end user, where you're going to see the flow, right? I've also attached the flow for it, and I'm asking you to create a detailed prompt for Lovable, right? Now, of course, the reason why I'm doing this is because Lovable charges you by credits, which means that every time you do something on an app like Lovable, it's going to charge you money. And you don't want that, right? You don't want that to happen where you don't want, every single iteration to be cost. So that's why you go ahead and work with GPT, you work with GPT-5 or whatever model is available, and then it creates a prompt for you, right? Now, what GPT does, it's very good at it because it understands your use case, and it's created, what an admin can do, what an end user can do, and so on and so forth. And all of these things are created here. Now, you go through this, you understand what is, the suggestion that ChatGPT has given, and then you understand what are some of the gaps that are present, right? Now, one thing that, it has entered here, if you see that it has entered a social login, right? Now, I don't want a social login to begin with. I don't want, people to be restricted because of that. So what I've done here is I've told it that, hey, you can remove the auth or authentication for now. You can just create the URLs. And also when I saw the prompts around the design, I felt that they were very old. They were not as modern, which is why I asked it to make the design as modern as possible on the prompt on mobile, because I wanted it to focus on mobile. Now, because of this, it created, a new section for me, whereas it created a new flow and, created all of these things, which is now ready for me to go ahead, right? Now, if you see what GPT is also doing is you want me to give sample transcripts. So I'm going to give you, yes, give me 2 sample transcript. So once GPT understands your use case, what it does very well is it follows up and gives you options that furthers your situation, right? So while it does this, I'm going to go to Lovable now, and I'm going to enter this prompt on Lovable, right? So I'll just show you what I've done here, right? So the final prompt that you saw, I've just very simply copy pasted it, right? And now this is available for you, right? I've not yet published it so that you see it from there. I'll just start a live preview for it. But what's happening here is I've given given it a prompt. What Lovable does is then it thinks. So I'll build a beautiful mobile first podcast learning platform with AI generated content and progress tracking. Now it decides what are its features for V1, what is the design system going to look like. And then of course it enables something called Lovable Cloud. We'll talk about that in a bit as well, which is, how the backend works and so on and so forth. But now do you see on the left, there is already a prototype that has come. Let's click on start learning. Also, one more thing, if you remember, what I did was I asked it, these are all the things. So it's created like pages for each category. It's created pages for each podcast. Since I gave it analytics, it's created that. So all of those things are created, right? Now let's click on start learning. So now it's giving me 4 categories, right? It's given me 4 categories of product management, AI and machine learning, growth marketing, design UX. I'll probably go inside product management. Now, so far I haven't given it, the sample transcripts, which is why if you go inside this, all of this is going to be empty. But once I start giving it some sample transcripts, it's going to be able to do that as well, right? Now let's go to ChatGPT again. Now ChatGPT has created 2 sample transcripts for me. So I'm just going to, copy these, and I'm not going to go to Lovable, because remember, Lovable is credits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them, can you write a prompt for Lovable to include the sample podcasts along with the transcripts for both of them? So what I will do is I will just ask. So what I'm doing is now I'm just again and again asking GPT itself to go ahead and, create Lovable prompt from this, right? Now, once again, there's a small mistake that I did. Now it's actually going ahead and doing the entire thing again. So I'll just stop it and just say that I only want the prompt for the updated version, since the base version is already created, but it does not have any podcasts in it. So I just wanted to add this. So I'm just going to tell it very simply that, hey, this is something that is not created here. So I just want to add this. So it's going to give me proper prototype of, just the update prompt. So now it's an update prompt where the goal is seeding 2 sample data sets, right? So now this is what, is going to be done. And then I'm going to be adding it here. Right now, since it was very heavily focused on mobile, what you would do here is you can see this on mobile as well. So you can just change the size. So this is how it looks on mobile. So you see, because I gave it a prompt, because ChatGPT did it, it's already taking care of these things, right? If you see on the home screen, this is how it looks like on a desktop. But the moment I go on mobile, what it has done is home, categories, analytics, and profile, just like any app would have, right? When you click on start learning, you go to categories. When you go inside, you go here, right? Now let's go back to GPT and see if this thing is done. So yeah, I think I'll just copy paste this and I'll just go back to this and copy paste it. We'll talk about one more feature while prototyping, which is, around chat next, but we'll talk and understand how that happens and so on and so forth. Right? Now, what is happening here is it's essentially, now when you're getting this idea, let's say you're, part of Duolingo's team, or you're part of, Byju's or some education app, and you get this idea, you don't have to worry about things like, okay, how do I document it? You don't have to create like very detailed verbose documents to do things. You can very easily just go and create a version of this, right? Just go ahead and publish this URL, which is here, and then this URL talks for itself, right? You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about any of those things. All you have to do is just that this URL talks about, just that this URL goes on its own, right? So I've just published this, which means that now when I open this URL, it's actually going to open, what I've just built, which is the Lovable app. Right now, when you go to people, when you speak to people, when you understand their use case, what's going to happen is you can give this to them and ask their experience. You don't have to worry about them looking at some thoughts and coming back with it, right? You can go ahead and, just look at it. Now, let's see if there is something that has been added yet. Don't think there is something that is added. Apply. So what it is doing is it's basically entering all the details that I have in the database. So I can just mention always allow so that it always automatically runs. And now it has successfully seeded everything, right? So I'll just reload this so that I see the preview again and see if it's been able to successfully add this, right? So I think it's done 2 product managements, which probably means that the second one has got some podcasts. So now, yeah, it's done that, right? Now, once again, iteration wise, I can see that, okay, the image is not there. I will have to iterate on it. Tell GPT again, upload these images. But now just with this, I saw that this is missing and now I can start learning, right? So here, once again, of course, it's not creating the questions now. Those are again iterations that I can do. But here you can very easily go ahead and start creating these cards and iterating on top of it, right? So for example, in this case, once I want to understand this, I'll go back to ChatGPT. I will then so go ahead and can you create an update prompt now for creating the learning experience where questions are generated from the transcript and presented to the user as learning cards. So now once create that update prompt for me. And once again, like I said, don't use Lovable to do all of these brainstorming. Use GPT or Claude or anything as your partner. And then once this thread becomes better and better, you can keep using this thread for every single feature that you have built, right? So that is the, overall secret of building a new thing, right? And of course, once this is done, I'm then going to go ahead. So what it's doing is it's creating the entire flow for me. It's creating, because this transcript and this questions are going to get generated from LLM, it's creating the prompt for the LLM as well. It's creating the expected output. It's creating how does the step 2 work. It's creating how does the step 1 work, and so on and so forth, right? So it's basically thinking on your behalf only and only because you've given it the first thing very well, right? Once you've given it your goal very well, which is very important, it's able to do this completely on your behalf, right? Now, of course, I can keep iterating, which is an important part of using something like this for yourself. For example, I can keep iterating with Lovable itself. So for example, what I said to ChatGPT, what I can do here is I can just go ahead and say that, hey, can you update now for creating the learning experience, and so on and so forth. And then there is a mode on Lovable which is called chat. Now, what does chat do? Chat costs you lesser credits, not zero credits, but it costs you lesser credits. Usually costs you, 1 credit or something like that to you. Where once you go ahead and hit this, what does chat mode do is that it does not make changes to what you have built, right? It does not make any changes to what you have built. What it does instead is that it examines how it has been built right now and gives you an implementation plan of making it, right? It's a very important feature to use. I mean, very underrated as well, because most people keep iterating on top of this again and again, trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, and waste a lot of credit. But if you look at what chat function here does on Lovable, is now it's looking at your code base, it's looking at everything, and then it creates a plan, right? So it's creating a plan of adding a flow that generates learning cards, assessments, and everything when users click on start learning, right? So that's not there right now. So it creates a UI component, calls functions, and all of this. And then it's going to tell you all the things that it's going to do. And it's going to create a very detailed plan of everything that it is going to do, right? Now, you're not spending credits so far, which means that if you're happy with the plan, you can of course go and click on implement the plan, and that is when the bulk of your credits get implemented. But using the chat feature, what can happen is you can really improve and iterate faster without spending a lot of credits. The final thing is edit, where if you click on edit, what happens is you can click on any of these. So for example, here, instead of, if I want to change this, I can change this to, I can just do like a change on some of the components. So I can change this heading. I can just do a text change here. Right now, since it's already implementing something, it's locked and not allowing me to do it. But you can make these changes from there, right? So all of these things are things that you can, very easily do. All of these things are things that you can, do on a daily basis on Lovable to be able to create prototypes out of the versions that you've created to get a lot of insights from there, right? Now let's look at the second thing that you could do on Lovable or while prototyping. Now, this is when you have a new idea, right? You have a completely new idea of doing something on Lovable and you build it out and something like this. But now, what about having an existing idea, right? What about having something that already exists? We are going to take another product. We are going to take Zoho meetings or Zoho appointments. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow the same workflow that we had, but we're going to follow it slightly differently, where we're going to take screenshots of the platform. So here what we've done is we've taken screenshots of Zoho Bookings, which is a calendar booking platform. And here I'm going to show I'm going to give ChatGPT my use case that, hey, these are the two things that exist. And now this is my flow. So once again, the flow remains constant. The flow of what do I want out of this? I want people to go to new booking link, select paid, unpaid, select amount, currency, allow no payment, and then booking confirmed, right? So this I will always have to give a chat GPT. And then of course I will give them my use case. Now this is of course, since the product already exists, it's a smaller use case where, I can create a lovable prompt where I'm trying to wireframe and add a new feature and so on and so forth. And the job is to, add a layer of paid stuff. But now here what is happening is, since the product already exists, right? Since the product already is available, what can happen is now I can create a replica of this product on Lovable and use that, edit and update things, right? So here what it has done is it's created a prompt for it, which is I'm creating a Zoho style app where admins can add and so on and so forth. And it's created all of these things. Now I have put this on Lovable again, right? So here I would just go ahead and I'll just publish it so that this appears for you, right? But in the meantime, we'll just see it on the left and we'll see what I've done here, right? So I've added those screenshots again. I've given the entire prompt of what is supposed to be done by the users. And then it is, gone ahead and created a Zoho booking style appointment platform. And because it's, gone ahead and created using the screenshots that I gave it, it's going to look extremely similar. If you look at it, indigo purple, 260 hue for that Zoho look. Background is light gray tones, what you saw there. Cards, white and subtle shadows, clean typography. So all of these things, right? Sidebar. If you see, now this looks very, very close to what we saw on Zoho. Of course, it can look slightly different. It is not 100% there. Those are things that are, of course, obviously there. But now what can happen, or what you can do as a product manager on this, is now you can iterate on this, right? Now you see it's copied all the flows that you see or that we were seeing in the screenshots there, where this was the home screen, appointments, interviews, workflows, recruiters. That's exactly what it's done. Appointment, interviews, workflow, recruiters, booking pages. There was a new appointment, upcoming, past, custom date. It's copied all of that just in one screenshot and one ChatGPT prompt. Now, what you can do essentially as a PM now, or a PM at Zoho or whatever company that you're working in, is now you have a working version, a front end version of your product here. When you click on new appointment, it's doing this. And now, of course, my thoughts of, payment type, paid, unpaid. If it's paid, then I can enter, $10, or I can change currency and say that, okay, it's 1,000. Now, of course, these are iterations that I would do. I can allow, no allow, and I can generate the paid booking link, right? So now look at how easy my wireframing has become. Look at how easy I can now go to a designer and tell them that, hey, this is what I want, right? I want to add a paid booking link and this is how I want to do it. And it, what it does, it takes you 3 screenshots, takes you time to think this flow through, and then a one prompt again on GPT, not on Lovable, because Lovable will cost credits, like I said. And then once you put it here on Lovable, what it's going to do is it's going to create a very simple page for you. It's going to copy the exact Zoho's aesthetic display. It's going to follow the color scheme. It's going to have the card based layout. So everything that you see there, everything that you have there are all things that are, very easily presented and very easily created now for you right off the bat, right? Now, if I want to change something, for example, in this case, I looked at it and I'll just made it full screen again. In this case, if I look at it, I'm not happy with, let's say, the fact that the currency here is not changing and it should be from there. Or I want to, maybe showcase this only after the details earlier have been finished or things like that. I can either choose to, do this. Can you write an update prompt on Lovable for this, where it should change the currency of the user along with the selection of the currency. Right now it's static at dollar. So I can give ChatGPT this instruction. What ChatGPT would do is it would, make sure that any edge cases that I might have missed, any edge cases that I might have figured out or missed out is something that, we can figure out and have presented here. And then it would work out, right? I can see in the chat a lot of you asking around recordings. Yes, you will get a recording for this. Don't worry. It will come on your email as well. So don't worry at all. And we will be sharing recordings with you on the WhatsApp channel and email wherever we've connected. So don't worry about that. And the slides too, if you would like to have that. But yeah, the idea here now is I will iterate, where I can choose to iterate right here, because this is a very straightforward change. It's a very straightforward thing that I can do here, but I can give it to ChatGPT just because it's easier and it's going to take care of this. So now what it's enable dynamic currency, update the paid booking where you make the currency feel dynamic instead of static. So now see, it's already figured it out, right? It's already figured out that it's showing $USD for both customer booking screens. Now the moment I give this, it's going to be able to do this, right? Now, looking at next part of what is not covered so far and what is important is now the backend, right? Now, as a product manager, you understand front end and backend, which means that you understand, you go ahead and look at it from that perspective of this is what is happening on the front end. But what happens on the backend is you can store data on the backend. So Lovable also allows you to have something called as Lovable Cloud. They've launched it recently. Before this, there were external things that were created apart from this. But here with Lovable Cloud, what can happen is now you can integrate backend. Now backend is anything to store data. So you can integrate a database. So you can store, for example, in the podcast example, if I just go back and show you Lovable Cloud, you can see, right, the data structure. There are 6 categories of rows. There are 2 podcasts. There aren't any learning cards, which is why the learning card was blank. But all of this is created now, right? All your users, right? Right now, of course, we don't have any users because we didn't create it, but all the signups, all the storage. So if someone wants to create their own podcast and store it, right? All the AI part of it, of what models to use and so on and so forth, all can be stored within Lovable itself on Lovable Cloud, right? So it's very, very easy to do it, right? It's very, very easy to create from this and create it out of it, right? So that is why it's, so easy to create something like Lovable or something like this from Lovable. And here again, I'll just go back and, copy this prompt so that it goes ahead and updates those things and just paste it here and enter, right? Very, very simple. Now, every time I want to go and create a new feature on this homepage, all I have to do is come back to this Lovable project, say that this is what I want to change, and it's going to create a change. Another thing that's very useful for while you're AI prototyping is history. So what Lovable allows you to look at is history. So for example, you've prototyped a new version and then you want to go back to an older one and you want to make changes to that, you can do that as well. At every version, you can view the changes and you can go to those messages and so on and so forth. So history is also pretty useful when you're prototyping. And now, of course, Lovable is making those changes as well. Now, the last part of, AI prototyping and how it works is how can you link it to Figma? Now, sometimes what would happen is you would already have certain files on Figma that your designers would have given you, right? So what are those files like? Those files can be converted into Lovable directly by something called as builder.io, right? So let's take an example of how it works, right? So we'll go to builder.io. So builder.io has, once you just go to builder.io's homepage, you will see Figma import, right? Which means you can go and get the plugin. And now this plugin can be opened on Figma. So I'll just open it into, let's say, builder.io's demo page itself. So here what happens now is Figma and builder.io are integrated together, right? So I'll just select this design page. Let's say I've selected this design page. And here now I'm going to run builder.io's program. And this is going to now export this into it, right? So here I will just install this plugin. Right, I'll just open it, let's say, or any Figma file that I have. So this is a demo file that I have on Figma, which is going to be here, right? Now, if you see, there are several integrations here. So there is something called builder.io. So I'll just select this, right? This is the dashboard, a random crypto dashboard that is there. And I will click on builder.io. And what it would do is it would now start exporting it into different versions. So there are 2 ways of export. One is smart export, where it turns into code using builder.io itself, because builder.io also helps you platform build, products like this. Or they have something called as classic export, where you can export this design into Lovable, right? So it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of time to, analyze all of those things and go ahead and export it into Lovable. But what it can do, or what it does essentially, is it can directly from here create a different project, create a new project on Lovable directly, right? So it's absolutely amazing where you can go ahead and create this. I will just show you a sample if I have it, where a file from Lovable got created here directly as a project. And that is something that I'm going to just very quickly show you while this time it does it. So of course, it's going to optimize it. It's going to look at all the things and so on and so forth, and create it. Right now, I can see a couple of questions on, does this use credits? Now, this is the one. Yeah. Now, this is, if you see this, I'll just open it in full screen also once it's loaded. So now this is what? This is an integration that is coming from Builder, right? So Builder's own UI, the one that you see here, this one, right? Now, I previously ran this because this takes a bit of time, but by the end of it, we'll be able to do this here as well. So this takes a bit of time, but this is the UI that I imported on Lovable, right? Now, this is what it is, right? Of course, it's still not perfect, but you see so many things are already imported into it already, right? The UI, of course, the images are a little broken, but otherwise the things that are there on the UI, right? If you go back and check the UI here and check this, right? Hawaiian Airlines, select seats, baggage, all the fields, everything is directly imported here, right? Of course, some rough edges, you have to work on this image overlay and all of those things, but those are things that you could do, right? Those are not very broken things. But in one click, what has happened is you've actually moved your entire, design that you had on Figma to Lovable. And now, whatever you were doing while prototyping, whatever you were doing while prototyping through GPT and coming here, that is also gone, right? Just this. And the best part of this is that this is free, right? Of course, using and iterating on top of Lovable is, of course, time, but it's free apart from that, right? So that is why it's so useful and it's so easy to do this, right? So once you've done this, it's going to come here. Now you can, make your further changes on Lovable after the designs were imported from there, right? We'll just see if this one is done. It's still going to take time. It takes a bit of time. So it says a couple of minutes, but it takes 5 minutes easily. So we're not going to wait for it. We're going to maybe come back and see it again from there. But this is something that you can create completely. Now, Lovable or all of these tools are actually good enough to build full-blown products at this time, right? But always as a PM, try and build prototypes when realism is unlocking feedback. But when you're doing discovery, right? When you're doing discovery in terms of working and understanding how you discover things or how you build things or what is the problem that you have to solve, prototyping is not for that part. Prototyping is, majorly for you going ahead and understanding when realism is important, right? Of course, you should use prototypes to reach out to your users and understand and help them interact, right? Now, just to showcase, the power of a prototype on Lovable could do is I'm going to just show you something that we built for all the students of our program just to help you understand how that works. So what we did was we were worried about all the time that it takes for people to kind of use the LMS. And so we had a system where we used to share all the content with users and everything, but that system was not working very well because it was lagging and slow and so on and so forth. So to help you understand, and since I see a lot of questions on chat of, hey, can you build an app on it? Hey, can you build this level? Can you build? So what you see on your screen is our learning management system at Ayuda for our programs, and it's completely built on Lovable. It's completely built pixel to pixel on Lovable. We've been able to create an app out of it. So what works is very simply, you just have to make it mobile responsive. And then there are certain tools where you can just paste this URL and convert it into a mobile app. They're going to give you an APK or an Android or an iOS file that you can just upload to Play Store or App Store, and it gets converted to a mobile app, right? So things like, showcasing announcements, sharing links, sharing all the content, going ahead and watching all this content, marking it as done, solving assignments, taking tests, connecting, all of those things, all of those modules, the admin part of it, all of it are built on Lovable. And this gives you an understanding of how far we are here, right? This is something that is there in terms of this. And of course, all of this is built with security. All of this initially, vibe coding and all of these tools had a problem in terms of security where, you had a challenge of them not being safe enough and all of those things. But now they store all of these credentials secretly in a super-based database where you can use Google Auth, right? There's nothing more secure than Google login at this point. So you can use Google login to ensure that all of those things are valid and safe, right? Finally, you should use prototypes in the bottom half of your tree. So you should not use them in the outcome section, the opportunity and solution. You should use them more in the learning, feedback, and prototype section of it. And of course, get real-time feedback because of it, right? Before we close, we'll just move to this. So it's given me two options. It's given me an option number one here. This doesn't look that good. This looks great. I'll just click on it. And now it's going to import this on Lovable, right? Open in Lovable. That's it. So it's going to just analyze the code, convert it into a Lovable project. And in the last 5 minutes, while we've been talking about seeing our LMS and all of those things, you actually have converted, a design into a Lovable project just like that. And now you don't need anyone. You don't need a designer, because that is one problem that a lot of people said that, hey, our design system is already there. Our designs are already there. It will take me so much time to convert it into a prototype. Now Builder has solved that for free, where you just convert it. Now this is going to create a component and it's going to be available there as well. So super powerful, super useful. Definitely try it out. You can build end-to-end products compared to anything else from there. So yeah, definitely try it out and talk about it, and create great stuff in terms of how it is and how we can build. And it's going to really, really supercharge you. It's going to make you so much more independent. It's going to help you learn so much as well as you go ahead and use these tools from there. Right. Now, finally, before we open the floor for questions, just a little bit about our program, which is Ayuda's flagship program. I promise it's going to take like a couple of minutes. So we run a program, or I run a program where the idea is to help you land a PM role. Now, there are multiple components of the program. There is learning, there is interviews, there is one-on-ones, and then there is AI. We have like, seven modules across each of these topics, and, some 30-40 sub modules where we go in detail of covering each of these things. And of course, one of the things that it is added on top of with is one-on-ones, where I work individually with people to help you, crack roles and help you get better at product management. And of course, now with AI coming in, everything that you need to know needs to have an AI touch. So if you're looking for help there, our program is something that you definitely should check out. We are already connected on WhatsApp, so you can link there, or you can just fill the QR code here and, just scan it and fill it through so that I can reach out to you over WhatsApp immediately. The link is also available on my LinkedIn and posts and everywhere. And of course, you can just say a hi and tell me on WhatsApp, and we can, discuss in terms of how it can help.